Good evening and welcome to tonight's board meeting. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Shapiro.
Here.
Trustee McGreal has left the room for a few moments.
There she is. She's back.
Trustee McGreal is here. Trustee Dizelle.
Here.
Trustee Ryan.
Here.
Trustee Michaels.
Here.
Trustee Dwyer.
Here.
Mayor Kitchen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
If you would, ladies and gentlemen, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
Officers report starting with myself this evening. I want to report that the Jewel driveway was finally completed, and it's awesome. And nice engineering, by the way. Also, I don't know how many of you will see before the Christmas holiday, but Merry Christmas to you all. Clerk's report.
I have the presentation of the minutes of the November 21st, 2016 board meeting, and I also have the presentation of the Freedom of Information Act report for November 2016. 21 reports were asked for, and that's all I have.
Attorney's report.
No report.
Engineer's report. At this point, we've reached the public forum. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to address this board on anything on our agenda?
I'll do this again because I've already done this prior meeting. I'd like to, on this...
I don't think the microphone's picking you up, sir.
I brought this up at the finance meeting, and I'd like to bring it up here at this meeting. I'd like to, on this ordinance for levying taxes for general, corporate, and special purposes, and then April 30, 2017, that this either be amended or changed to exempt senior citizens or people on Social Security from this ordinance. That's it.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Anyone else? Moving along, standing committees, Finance, Trustee Shapiro.
Here under Finance, I have the request for the approval of an ordinance levying taxes for the general, corporate, and special purposes for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2016, and ending April 30th, 2017, for the village of Alsip, Cook County, Illinois. Next, I have a request for the approval of 5 separate ordinances for the abatement of Series 2005B bond, the Series 2007 bond, the Series 2009A bond, and the Series 2015 bond. Next, I have a request for the approval of a list of payroll dated November 25th, 2016 as follows. Under earnings, I have a gross payroll of $556,787.81 minus the voluntary employee deductions and taxes of $195,013.56 for a net payroll of $361,774.25. Next, I have the request for the approval of accounts payable dated December 5th, 2016 as follows. Under corporate, $122,573.83. Under road and bridge, $141,525.40. Motor fuel tax, $128,650.93. Under the plastic corridor TIF, $1,017.50. The 123rd and Cicero TIF, $1,418.44. Under waterworks, $60,717.69. Heritage 2, $45,804.13. For a total of $501,707.92. Plus, I'd like to add on the bond payment for the IEPA loan of $83,911.50 for a grand total of all funds of $585,619.42. Also, just prior to tonight's meeting, you'll have to bear with me for just a minute. One of the things that that the board, had tried doing for a long time is working with the police and the finance department for the Illinois debt recovery system. That system took a long time to set up, and it's starting to begin the appeal process, but finally started to show in receipts. Late last month, the village took in $8,284.79 through the state withholding of those who have not paid the red light fines. We expect that number to grow in the spring once income tax returns are filed. I'd like to make sure that special thanks to Lieutenant Zablotny and Records Clerk Debbie Dazel for the fine work they did putting this process together. Thank you.
Trustee Shapiro,
Yes.
Can I do one more?
Sure.
One of the things the board does periodically is it gives us some consensus on doing property tax appeals. And normally we try to get that out to the packet, but and we got one late this afternoon. And I'd like to see whether or not we can get a consensus on that. I'd also like to have the village attorney. I don't believe what we're looking at is an appeal. And it doesn't cross the dollar amount that it needs formal vote from the board, I believe. So this is an appeal at 4209 West 115th Street. The attorney, Scott Ginsberg, who makes the recommendation, has been working with District 218 on it. They're making a recommendation that we do an appraisal on that property and looking at doing fighting an appeal at that property. We get these periodically. Normally you get them in your packet. Again, I received this as an email late today. And to speed up the process, he didn't say the timetable he was looking at. He did say the appraisal would be about a $3,000 appraisal, but we split that with other taxing bodies. The village's portion of that would be about $600. He's highly recommending that we go forth and authorize that $600. Again, normally we bring that to the board, and Attorney Elliott can correct me if I'm not stating this correctly. We bring it to the board because we feel that's a board decision. It's not a board decision in terms of the dollar amount for ordinances. 600 is way below that, but we feel it's better to have the whole board talk about that. We could either do that as consensus today, or, and again, I assume since we got it late today, we've got enough time to do 2 weeks. If you'd rather wait till the 19th, I just don't know if it's urgent or not because he didn't say that in the email.
Generally, the attorney makes a recommendation that it's X number of dollars, the appeal is whatever, it shows what the differential is between the two, what our cost is to that regard.
And good point. So I'm reading his email. It says the village's tax refund liability in this appeal is approximately $10,553 a year, or about $32,000 for the triennial. So an appraisal in this cost makes sense. He is saying, that's his words. And again, there's a cost sharing with the other school districts. So he believes that it would be a hiring of Dale Klaczynski to prepare the appraisal at a cost to the village of approximately $600 of that $3,000. So it's $600 for about a $32,000 triennial. He says the numbers there make absolute sense. So again, that's the email I normally make sure gets forwarded to you in the packet, but I received that email late today, so I didn't have that opportunity. I didn't know if you wanted to have the opportunity to try to do a consensus today, or if you want to read that email and
Well, I think this is something that the board always does anyway, and I don't have a problem with moving forward for a consensus on there. Basically, Mr. Ginsburg, you know, who represents us all the time, is asking for a consensus to spend the $600 so we can whittle down that $32,000 appeal. So I don't have a problem with that.
If I can just add, he's not asking for a settlement improvement.
No, right.
This is just,
This is to see whether or not it makes
Right.
sense to appeal it.
right, and
He
it's
did
even
men-
hard to determine what a settlement should be without the appraisal, and it's a minimal cost.
He did
so.
say School District 218 took the lead on it and attempted to negotiate a settlement and didn't
Right.
get anywhere. So this is their next step in that process. The next step would be an appraisal. The next step would be to evaluate the appraisal to see whether or not to fight that appeal.
Right.
Kent, what kind of property at 4209 115th Street? What is that?
I do not know the answer to that.
That's what it sounds like the Villa Court ones over there? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it was at
4209
the
West.
top of my head.
4209 West
115th.
150.
Villa Court.
Right.
Okay.
So, does anybody have a problem with moving
No,
forward?
I think
on that?
Mr. Ginsburg always done
Okay,
a
you
nice
have your
job.
consensus then, Mr. Oliver.
Thank you very much.
Anything more from finance?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Fire, Trustee Michaels.
I have a list of bills and timesheets, and I have an overview of the grants recently applied for. Chief, you want to fill us in on that?
Yeah, I went over with my fire committee a couple months ago at the grants we applied for, and we did a few more. Through FEMA's Assistance to Firefighter Grants, it comes out every year around fall. A couple of things that we put in individually as a department. We put in for a digital flame simulator. It's a training program, uses digital, technology as well as a smoke generator. We can use it either inside our training tower or anywhere using either real water or a digital nozzle. The cost is $24,000. That's through the grant. Our share is about $1,100 if we are awarded it. The second we applied for is a regional grant with about 20 other fire departments, and that was for the cardiac monitors. That's one of the things we talked about at this year's budget because ours are due up this year. So part of the grant, the total amount of grant is about $1.5 million between all the departments. Our share is about $120,000 because we're doing all 3 ambulances plus our 2 ALS engines with the monitors. So our share with the grant is about 5% of the $120,000. So again, much lower than the $100,000 we originally talked about. The other part of that is with the regional grant also, we also went in with about another 25 departments with a regional command van. The areas to the east of us do not currently have a command van, so we went on them. So with the regional grants, we have a better opportunity of getting a regional grant than just a department individually. So it'll take about 2-3 months for them to review it. Now with the new administration coming into the government, I don't know if that's going to put a delay. I have no idea. I don't think anybody knows. We'll find out what happens after January 20th, I guess. The last grant we put in for is through Firehouse Subs. It's $13,800, and that is for a unmanned aircraft vehicle or a drone. It does have thermal imaging capabilities, so it would be used not only by us, but also the police department and Public Works. I think they get them awarded somewhere after January, so we'll see what happens with that one. So. No, not going to be marked. That's it.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that. I think that would be fantastic because when you're the chief and overseeing a scene, having a bird's eye view of what's going on the fire ground is just immeasurable. I mean, it's just fantastic. You could probably catch a problem before it turns into something very serious.
All right, especially with our area between the railroad tracks, we have a lot of large industrial buildings, chemical factories. We got the tollway, we got the canal. I mean, it's just endless with us, and it's a newer technology. The military's been using it for years. They finally passed it down to us, and if we can get it, we're going to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. That's all I have under fire.
Police, Trustee Shapiro.
Mayor, other than the normal list of bills and timesheets, I have a request for the approval of an ordinance authorizing the disposal of items of personal property owned by the Village of Alsip and a property control sheet for the deletion of 2 2009 Dodge Chargers. That's all I have, Mayor.
Public Works, Trustee Dwyer.
I have a little letter here from Mike, and he wanted to let us know that obviously we had our first measurable snow on Sunday, December 4th. Public Works had a full crew out plowing and removing almost 5 inches of snow from village roadways. He would like to take this time to remind our residents to promptly remove vehicles from village streets at the end of a snowfall. Vehicles are subject to ticketing and towing after 1-inch accumulation on marked primary snow routes, and no parking on any residential streets after 2 inches or more accumulation of snow. A list identifying primary snow route streets can be found on the Village of Alsip website, www.villageofalsip.org, under Public Works Streets. Vehicles should not be parked back on streets for up to 12 hours after the snowstorm has ended. Our first priority is always any snowfall is to provide safety and efficient travel on as many roads as possible in the shortest amount of time. We ask residents to please not push snow back out onto the street after it has been plowed, as this can cause an obstruction in the road, making it hazardous to motorists and emergency vehicle response. The Village of Alsip Public Works Department is dedicated to providing the best possible snow removal service to our residents. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated, and if you have any questions, please contact the Public Works Department at 708-385-6902, extension 364. And I personally want to congratulate the Public Works Department. I think you guys did a great job. You're out there right away. Nobody was expecting that much. I wasn't expecting that much snow. Yeah. So thank you very much. You did a great job. And that's all I have under Public Works.
I'd like to ask, did we use the new slurry system on this?
We did try it on a couple of streets. The temperatures didn't really prove to be very worthwhile with the testing of it because it was kind of freezing. And plus the snow came down so heavy at times, it was kind of hard to get a good accurate read. It works better on the below freezing temperature.
No. Anything to save us salt. Building, Trustee Michaels.
I have a list of bills and timesheets and the presentation of the November monthly activity report. The report reads as follows. It runs from 11/1/16 to 11/30/16. Estimated cost of construction was $728,218. Number of permits issued were 108. And the amount collected was $13,965.50. Next, I have a request for approval of refund Alsip Restoration located at 4456 West 115th Place for permit number 16-16697 in the amount of $105.25. I did some investigation on this. The reason why that is because there was another contractor that came in and took over the job from this gentleman, and they were doing the work on his permit. So he's requesting a refund for his permit, and the person that is currently doing it got a new permit. So we're just refunding the gentleman that is no longer doing the work. That's all I have under billing.
Water and Sewer, Trustee Dizelle.
Presentation list of bills, the employee time records, and the November 2016 monthly activity report. That's all I have, Mayor.
License, Trustee Ryan.
License Committee requests for approval a list of licenses dated today, December 5th, 2016. We also had a few new business license applications. One was from T&G Food Services. They actually list an address here at 2531 West Washington. This is a food truck, and I'm assuming there's not a good explanation here, but I'm thinking this might be for the Swaparama Flea Market. There's another one here for Papa Bear Yard Services, and while they have a different address on there, it looks like the owner of the building is Holy Cross Lutheran Church on 120th Street, and this is a tree lot, I would assume, for Christmas trees to be sold. Next one's from Adam Mobile Incorporated. They're at 11825 South Pulaski. This is a cell phone store. And the last, and we were actually there this weekend for the grand opening, is for the new Dunkin' Donuts, 11843 South Pulaski, and this is from Thomas Management. And certainly we welcome them. That's a great facility they just built over there. That's all we have, sir.
Economic Development, Trustee Ryan.
We have an economic development group that we're working with, the Mannheim Group. We put a copy in everyone's mailbox with their report for the month. Currently, they do have application. Well, first off, what I have on the agenda here is I'd like, this relates to item L on your consent agenda, is a request for approval to waive the TIF application fee for existing business owners on the Pulaski Road or in the Pulaski TIF district. Basically, we have the application fee waiver for the existing businesses on Pulaski Road TIF or on Pulaski Road. This ordinance is included in today's agenda for approval. We believe that the existing businesses on Pulaski have already demonstrated a commitment to the area, and while new proposals have not. The ordinance meets with approval of our corporate counsel. Our village attorneys had a chance to review this. So and this is we used to ask for a $500 application fee. Because it is a TIF-eligible reimbursement, we're asking the fee just be waived to help small businesses on Pulaski and to entice more businesses in participating in TIF money. So this way, whether they have, if it's a TIF-eligible expense, they may want to redo their parking lots. They may want to redo the facades on their buildings. Right now, we're speaking of an 80-20 split with the property owners or business owners participating, assuming 20% of that cost. Also, as reported last month, marketing and research on Alsip buildings and sites for use in the sales calls are underway with CB Richard Ellis Commercial Real Estate. To date, offers have been made on behalf of the village to 4 property owners because we're considering property acquisitions. 3 of the property owners have responded with counteroffers that are under the appraised value. 1 owner is not interested at this time. Also, the staff has received an application for a TIF grant from Health on Earth Wellness Center. They're going to be located at 11933 South Pulaski. This is a chiropractor in the process of setting up a practice here in Alsip. The positives of this project are the improvement of the property as well as bringing in a new health care service to the village. Our group is working with the chiropractor and his agent to complete the application. When we believe that it's complete, the application will be forwarded to the Economic Development Committee for review. And then lastly, Studio K, it's a well-known hair salon on Pulaski, is considering facade and interior remodeling, and they may be willing to participate in the redevelopment of the adjoining properties that we're looking at over that way. And lastly, we are also continuing to work with other businesses that have expressed interest in a TIF grant. Pretty much covered everything on there. Mr. Manheim, anything else you wanted to add to the report?
I think you have it all covered for tonight.
Okay. And next month, they want to continue to meet with some of the Pulaski Road property owners and businesses, doing their best to expand this project. And obviously, we're continuing to work with the board and CB Richard Ellis as far as any potential acquisitions. At this time, we are not making any acquisitions. This is nothing but appraisals, and we're making a couple offers to see if businesses that may be struggling on Pulaski are interested in selling those properties. We can actually help redevelop these properties as we did last year at the Certified Grocer on Pulaski. We participated in taking that store down, making a blighted area look a little more appealing, and within a year we had a new Taco Bell. This generates property, more tax money, more more retail taxes that help our budget, obviously, too. So we hope to be successful. You want to say something, Kent?
Not on that topic, but before you, when you're done, before you.
I'm done.
Okay. With regards to the TIF 1 plan, I've been trying to coordinate with Mary Thompson. We're getting close to wanting to present that. It is likely there'll be need to be an economic development meeting before the next board meeting. So within the day, we should talk about when that should be, and other board members can weigh in, other members of the committee. So we should have a committee meeting so we can have a plan before the next December 19th, on the December 19th meeting.
Okay. No. That's all I have, Mayor.
Special Committee reports, Village Properties, Trustee Michaels.
I have a list of bills and an update of the vacancy rate at Heritage 1 and Heritage 2. On that, I have a memorandum from Roger Early, our Village Properties Manager. I would like to give the mayor and the board an update on the vacancy rate at Heritage 1 and 2. There are 3 vacancies at Heritage 1 and 5 at Heritage 2. I would like to commend my team on all their dedication and hard work. Without that, we would not be as close to our goal as we are now. I am working with Zeiler Management to get 100% occupancy. There is a wait list at Zeiler and is diligently working on going through to help us obtain that target goal. Also, I wanted to thank all department heads that volunteered someone from their team to help us deck the halls. I think everyone had fun, and it was a great way to jumpstart the Christmas season and help get everyone in the spirit. It's a lot of work, and we could not have done it without everyone's help. Signed, Roger Early. Thank you, Roger. Just to give you a little background, the Heritage 1 and 2 complexes are 512 units. Okay, so when we're talking a handful of vacancies, that's fantastic. Roger, you and your team did a fantastic job. Thank you. Let's see. And that's all I have under village properties.
Insurance, Trustee McGreal.
Kent, do you have a report?
Yeah, I have a few quick items. First, we met with Benestar, flew out and came also locally and met with the retirees who are Medicare eligible. That process went extremely well. Part of it's a situation where both the costs are lowered and the benefits got better. So I think all the retirees who attended that were very happy with that, and that went well. The Benestar is also a full-service group, so they are enrolling people in Medicare Part D for them and doing a lot of the transactional work so that our seniors don't have to do that. Second, wellness starts tomorrow. The official number of people signed up for wellness has ballooned, and we have exactly 100 people signed up, which is a great thing in its second year, given a village our size. That's employees plus their spouses. That is not their adult children, but employees plus their spouses. We're up to 100, and there is still room for some walk-ins, and so that will be held in this room starting tomorrow. And if you are an employee or a spouse in this room, we would strongly suggest you go to the website because there is a number of questions that have to be filled out. It takes a long time, and although you can do it here, it's much easier if you do it on your own or at least start that process. And then last, I had a meeting today about IPRF. We just today got our workers' comp rates for next year. Last year, if you'll recall, we all took a hard swallow when they gave us a $120,000 increase. And this year, I'm proud to say and happy to say that we are now flat. Essentially, some move up, some move down, but it's essentially a flat one. We're not going to be looking at a $120,000 increase. In fact, we expect that we're crossing our fingers that might actually go down in the next few years. It takes a few years to happen, but our loss ratio is decreasing, and that's finance speak. When I say loss ratio, the better way to say that is the number of injuries that are happening to Village of Alsip employees has been going down, and that's a coordinated effort from all the departments, the department heads, the labor organizations are working with. It has to do with our insurance broker and Kathy Franson with our accident review boards, but those numbers have dropped dramatically, and that's helped keep the line on our workers' comp, and hopefully in the next few years it will actually decrease our workers' comp as we hope this trend continues and it will lead to a decrease. So we're excited about that. The only other thing is our next year is going to be a 16-month year, as IPRF has finally listened to the demands of municipalities for the last 30 years and is moving from a calendar year to a fiscal year. So it's going to be easier on our budgeting going forward because we will know what those rates are, as well as what salaries are, since those are done on a fiscal year as well.
And it's good news. Thank you, Kent. That's all that I have, Mayor.
Ordinance and legislation, Trustee Dazell.
The request for the approval of an ordinance amending the Alsip Village Code, Chapter 15.5 Personnel, Section 15.5-33.2, and it relates to the employee health insurance benefits. That's all I have, Mayor.
IT, Trustee Ryan.
Mayor, the IT committee, I posted this late this afternoon, or at least I sent the request for a committee meeting to the clerk's office, that I'd like to have a committee meeting just to discuss future projects and anything to do with IT as far as a quarterly information meeting is concerned. This will be next Monday, the 12th, at 6:30 p.m. Also, I was just thinking regarding what you suggested, Mr. Olivan, with the Economic Development Committee, I will get together with those members, too. Maybe we can piggyback on that same evening then, too. As long as we have everybody here on Monday night, it's usually a good night to do that. So if it's possible to get the committee here, we'll post it for the public.
And I think that would probably still work. Most of what is going to come out of this committee report has already been stated publicly in many meetings, so it's not going to be too much of a surprise.
Okay. That's all.
Take too long.
That's all I have.
Boat launch, Trustee Ryan.
Boat launch is still closed, and I did have a note on here. Mr. Frater, did we post up the no trespassing signs we were talking about last meeting? Okay. If you can get those, that'd be great. Okay. That's all we have.
Planning and Zoning, Trustee Dwyer.
No report, Mayor.
Human Resources, Trustee Dwyer.
We had our first ever Human Resources meeting this last Saturday, and a lot of it was discussed by Kent, the CH Wellness. What I was told, it was 105 people signed up, and they do a lot of blood screening, like 32 different blood screens and blood pressure, and everything's confidential. Kathy also talked about offering the health savings account, and she talked about the workman's comp and that's come down a great deal. We also talked about the employee handbook, and I guess you're still going over or reviewing it, is that correct?
Well, it's my understanding that she's waiting for the completion of the ordinance, which the last part is on the agenda tonight.
Oh, okay.
And then we should
So
be
then
ready to
after
go.
that, then it's completed and,
Yeah.
okay. So moving forward with that. And that's, I think that's about all we discussed. It was a good meeting, and that's all I have under Human Resources.
Are there any presentations, petitions, or communications which we have not covered under ordinary business?
I had one, Mayor. Chief Rads, I wanted to ask, after we talked about disposing of a couple of old squad cars, that they weren't suitable for the needs of our emergency services and disaster assistance, we talked maybe getting them something different, like an SUV or a pickup truck, something like that, because sometimes they have to carry certain equipment with them as well. Do you have anything like that you're going to be disposing of anytime soon? Otherwise, I'd actually like to discuss with the board or bring it back like we did with the health department. We got her a small SUV that was well priced through Enterprise and stuff like that. I know we haven't had a vehicle like that in the past, but I just hate the idea that we're looking at a situation that we should cover with having a vehicle for this.
I agree with you. I just don't know per se if ESDA falls under my budgetary burden.
Oh, no, I'm just asking about any vehicles. You see anything like that coming up?
Obviously, cars are a pretty big expenditure, so we would have to figure out what budget line item it would come out, even if we did find something like that.
Right.
I do know this, that the vehicles that we're speaking of that had the hard miles, because they came out of the control division.
Right.
But I see a propensity that whenever we bring a vehicle out of the investigations unit, it's a lot less worn. So if we want to wait for that cycle to come on, but that could be a year.
That's what I'm asking.
I think the village car came out of the investigations pool.
Okay.
So it's in a little better shape. Or, like you had suggested, we can, as a village, and again, that's something that you all are going to have to figure out who's going to oversee that and what
Sure.
line item that car can come.
I think it would have to be part of the budget process, and there is an ESDA department, so it would just have to get budgeted in there if it didn't come as a investigations hand-me-down. And I will say that vehicle is in nice shape. So that rotation into the one, the last one that came from that group.
The two you're disposing tonight, make no mistake.
No, I get you. Okay. Mr. Tracy, go ahead. You're ESDA.
Just as a reminder, as you know, as the budget, there's not much there, and we're having financial difficulties. So along those lines, as we discussed, we'll be looking at possible grants. We're going to look at police department personnel, possibly search and seizure, keep your eyes open.
got a lot of some grants, I'm going to do it with some grants. I'm going to leave, no stone unturned, see if we can hit something. If we don't, we have a good point, trustee Ryan, we're in need, we're just kind of holding our breath, but we don't have to have a response, that type of thing.
We could be getting lucky. I hate to wait, we want to try and be proactive, although historically, we haven't had a vehicle for this. If we're budgeting and we have personnel in there and everything else, there's no reason why we shouldn't be covering this and stuff, so that's all I want to do.
There are distinct benefits to ESDA, especially when you have a major event in the village.
Exactly.
You should have ESDA personnel handling it. And the word knows, there is a big volunteer base out there also. Individuals also don't like to participate in a program like that.
You see that in a lot of towns, and I'll tell you, primarily right now I work near the Chicago Heights area, and they have small towns out there all the time. Their ESDA guys are helping out there. They don't have enough of a budget for community service folks, but they're helping all the time with police and fire and all that kind of thing. So I'd just like to see us prepared.
Right. A few of those things. I found out a little bit. Sometimes those volunteer programs are not what you think. They're hitting costs. Oak Lawn checked into that. It's like $50,000. There's other costs involved. Others may not. So they've got some internship programs for some volunteer help for the ESDA director. But I'm checking into a lot of different things. The vehicle is one of them.
Great. Okay. I just want to bring, because we're disposing of those 2 vehicles tonight.
We got to get that Jeep Gracie away from the top shelf stuff.
You got a lot of history here,
Was that a disparaging remark about my fire department?
Absolutely not. He's got to come to the police side.
Old habits.
Yeah, old habits die hard.
He still wants that Hummer,
I have seen the car the chief drives. I think that might be appropriate.
Sold. That's the guy. Just put miles on it.
All right, are there any items you wish to remove from the consent agenda, trustees?
Item D.
Anything else?
D is in Debbie.
Yes.
E is in boy?
D.
Oh, D.
D like Debbie.
D like Debbie.
Oh, I see.
Large. Bold.
All right, therefore, I need a motion to establish the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you add the remaining information, please?
As soon as I write down who made the motion and who made the second.
You got time.
Roll call number 1. B should read $556,787.81. C should read $585,619.42. D has been removed from the consent agenda. E will now be ordinance number 2016-12-1. F will now be ordinance 2016-12-2. G will now be ordinance number 2016-12-3. H is ordinance number 2016-12-4. I is ordinance number 2016-12-5. J is ordinance number 2016-12-6. Roll call number 1 to establish. Trustee Shapiro.
Yes.
Trustee McGreal.
Yes.
Trustee Dizelle.
Yes.
Trustee Ryan.
Yes.
Trustee Michaels.
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer.
Yes.
Motion carries to establish the consent agenda.
Therefore, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved?
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Roll call number 2. Trustee Shapiro.
Yes.
Trustee McGreal.
Yes.
Trustee Dizelle.
Yes.
Trustee Ryan.
Yes.
Trustee Michaels.
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Returning to item D, approval of an ordinance levying taxes for general corporate and special purposes for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2016 and ending April 30th, 2017 for the Village of Alsip, Cook County, Illinois. Trustee?
Yes, I'd like, Kent, if you could clarify that a little further. It was confusing between last week and then this week on our last meeting where we had to decide between Plan A or Plan B with the levy. And now it's just the rate for the levy, but the board voted on Plan B last week.
Correct.
So we're separating that out now?
No, so last time the question was, there was two put forth, and any number could be determined, but from my point of view, I put forth two, and the board did pick one of those, which was a 4.99% increase in the levy.
That was with the utility tax for gas and electricity. That's what it said.
Well, that was...
With an unknown amount.
Right. So the utility tax is not part of this. There's no electricity or natural gas tax. What we were doing when we were doing that is we were trying to come up with a 5-year plan to eliminate the retiree benefit deficit, the annual amount that we're short, so we could, at that point, start chipping away at the actual debt. And we've been talking before the levy started, and we will be talking after the levy about trying to come up with a 5-year plan to find the funding to pay for it, to eliminate that deficit and start to chip away at the debt. That was framed as part of that 5-year plan, but you're not voting on the 5-year plan. So all of the other parts of that plan are not being voted on. So there's no vote now about future year increases. There's no vote right now about electricity. There's no vote about natural gas, and it's not part of that ordinance. All we're doing is the one part that we have to do right now because we have to file by the last Tuesday in December with Cook County, or we don't end up with property taxes. But we will have to come back to that other conversation, because without having that conversation, what you end up with is the unfunded liability, which is now called the net pension liability and the net OPEB liability, is going to grow for a couple of different reasons. So if we don't want it to grow, we have to come up with a board-passed plan. It's accounting rules, and it's also just that we're not putting in the money we need to be doing. This was part of that plan, but you're not voting on the whole plan. You're only voting on the same thing you do every year at this time, which is the property tax levy. Do we want to levy property taxes or not?
Well, that's why it was kind of confusing. It's kind of like you put the horse before the cart that we were discussing. So that was an actual vote, or was that a consensus? You said to me that was a consensus. So that's not.
The consensus was to determine the levy. Part of what the state statute says is before you vote on a property tax, you have to determine the levy. Now, the determination, some do it with a more formal vote, some do it with a consensus, but the board needs to figure out what rate goes into that levy ordinance. That was done at the last time. So now it's the question of, do you want to pass a property tax levy or don't you? That number of 4.99 is in it, but it's not just that increase, it's the whole property tax levy. So without a no vote, if the board voted a no vote, there would be no property taxes. And as we saw, the property taxes is 35% of the revenue for the governmental funds. That would be a dramatic change in the amount of services this village provides, police, fire, and all other departments.
To address what the one gentleman that addressed the board earlier, is there any provision? I know we haven't done it in past years. Is there any kind of discount we can offer seniors?
Not to my knowledge, with the exception that there already is a senior tax exemption out there, and I would hope that person is filed for that. There is a senior tax exemption out there for being a senior, and I would encourage everybody to go look at all of the exemptions that they qualify, including that one.
Just nothing we can offer that's on the county side.
There's additional to that, but there is a senior exemption out there.
That's not to say that, excuse me, one second,
Sure.
Sheila. That's not to say that, Trustee Ryan, that not in future years, the board couldn't come up with something, especially when we don't really have the set amount for those so-called utility taxes yet, okay? Because we need to get something that's really etched in stone. We have, I think, right now four different outlays of what they should look like, but we're looking to get a lot more detailed information because a lot of the towns, communities go on terms, not on percentages, okay? So when you can convert terms and percentages, it's like apples and oranges. So.
And that's actually the way the state statute reads. They're actually different between the two, and I believe Therms is done with one of them. And so that does have to be debated in the future. That is not part of this. Right. Had you passed the 5-year plan, this would have been one piece of that plan, but since that 5-year transitional plan wasn't passed, right, we have to pick out the one part of it that does have to be determined by law in December, and we're just doing that one piece. We're going to have to come back to the whole bigger picture later.
Just 3 more things real quick.
Sure.
That was an action item at the last meeting that the board voted on.
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't just a consensus. It was an action. It was an action item.
That's probably the better way to go. I did not remember that, but that does.
So that was voted on then?
Yes, it was.
It was a vote on it. The state statute is not clear, so some do it as a resolution, some just do it as an action item, some do it as a consensus. Somehow the board has to, quote unquote, determine what that rate should be in a prior meeting, and that's what was done.
Basically, what you're voting on tonight is just the approval of the ordinance. That's already been agreed upon.
Yeah. I just want to be clear, because last meeting, the board voted for Plan B option, which I disagree with. So if I vote for this, is this attached to anything? Because that's how it was placed to us.
No, and as a matter of fact, when we were talking about Plan B, we were talking about the property tax within Plan B. I do not believe, and you guys correct me if I misinterpreted this, I do not believe there was a vote on the 5-year total Plan B. What we were looking at was within 2 different 5-year plans, just the property tax. So the other details of the 5-year plan were not voted on. It was just, was there a 12.5% or was there a 4.99% of the property tax? We'll have to come back to the 5-year plan.
So no utilities can be raised or gas increases without going back to the board for approval?
Correct. We did not vote on that. What we did is say, what we did say is when we went with Plan B, there was an indication that you might be going down that road, and because we need somehow to find the revenues to close this with the deficit, not the debt.
That's why it's kind of confusing, though, because if you put that in there as a vote, does that leave it open that you can go ahead and do that without board approval?
No, absolutely not.
Any utility tax, like a gas tax or electric tax, would require its own ordinance to be approved by you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's but because you guys chose Plan B, it gives an indication that you're going to find other revenues. That is one route to finding those revenues, but we have to find a way within 5 years to find the revenues to close the deficit so we can start to tackle the debt, or it's going to get out of control.
I'm assuming, if that answered your question correctly, that last week what they did was they, those in favor of that 4.99% tax levy, that was just to approve which one they wanted to use. This is to actually implement that tax levy.
Correct, and the people and you guys know your votes better, but just because somebody voted against the 4.99, which was Plan B, I do not necessarily think of those who voted, and you guys can speak for yourself, that meant that they wanted Plan A. It just meant that they did not want to see the village raise its aggregate levy 4.99. It doesn't mean that it could mean any other number. Or it could mean 0, it could mean negative, it could mean $1 million. I don't know what that means. It just meant that that particular one they did not want, not necessarily that they were more in favor of A.
Well, no. I mean, in my case, I didn't vote for it because I didn't like that other part to it where you possibly in the future rate increases for utilities and gas. That being attached to it was very confusing, and I think that caused a lot of issues with a few of us trustees, and I don't want to see that happen, so I voted against it.
And I get that, but there will have to be some revenues, whether it's coming from that or something else, because without a 5-year plan, we are going to see an increase in the net liability, or what we used to call the unfunded liability. And that will continue to grow, both because you're not putting in what you should every year, but also because accounting rules are changing. They look at a 5-year lag, and that percentage funding is actually going down. So every year you go forward, the funding percentage is going down when you average the last 5 years, so your debt is going to go up. So it's both an accounting rule and, frankly, real money. You're not putting away what you're supposed to put away every year. So there does, whether it comes from that source or another source, we've got to find some fairly significant monies to bridge that gap.
Trustee Shapiro, what's your motion?
I just have one more thing, please, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the clarification, but as I clearly said I wasn't for option A or B last time. I appreciate that clarification, but lastly, I have a question for the attorney. I appreciated Mr. Wengel's comment. I think it's very appropriate, and I would like, if it's possible, for the board to consider the amending this motion to exempt the senior citizens or the citizens on Social Security.
You can't do that. The levies,
Why?
because the levies filed with the county, and you're setting the amount that they're to take out. They're the ones that would determine any exemptions or that kind of thing. They don't. There's no provision under state law that would allow you to direct the county to not tax certain people. It's not part of the property tax law. Property tax law has its own built-in exemptions within it.
Yeah, there are some exemptions that could be applied for, senior exemptions, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
on
The
an
collection
individual
of
basis.
the collection of property taxes is not under your control. It's under the control of the county. You just tell them how much to take, but you don't have the ability to tell them to only tax certain people.
What about utility taxes? Do we have any control over that?
Yes, that's a local tax.
But not who gets it, whether or not you
Right.
levy it.
But not a senior exemption on that either?
Correct. I don't believe, from what I've read of it, now I'm not the lawyer, but I do
Right.
not believe that there's, you can do it that way either.
That was
It's a yes or
one
no.
of the questions that I posed to 3 municipalities, and I had not received an answer back yet. So
The senior exemption is normally done through the county, correct?
Correct.
I mean, and you can apply for it every year.
Correct. That's what I said. The property tax code has its own provision for exemptions and how they're structured.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Elliott, I believe that exemption used to just extend, and now it does have to be applied for every year. So it is possible, in years gone by, you thought you were getting it every year, and all of a sudden you're not getting it. So it is worth checking. If at one point you got it and you don't remember applying in the last year, checking to see whether or not you have that. It's possible that you do not, and you need to apply again. Again, it's now an every year thing. It's not a permanent thing, I believe. Am I correct on that? I think so.
You could also go over to the Worth Township building to apply for reducing your taxes.
Or online.
And the last thing I have, Kent, is just on Exhibit B, passing this 4.99%, it looks like there's 10 funds where nearly $7 million will go to, and only approximately $4.5 million to police and fire pension after all our discussions.
Yeah, so the let's see, there's a 4.99% aggregate increase. And what we did is aggregate also has the bond, and it's called bond and interest. It's the bond levy, which is principal and interest for the bonds. Our bond schedules have actually decreased for this next year. So even though the aggregate is 4.99%, which is 0.68%, a 0.68% increase in the overall property tax bill, that is a 6.91% for each of the funds. So the police and fire, pension funds, each are going to see a 6.91% increase. The general fund and the road and bridge fund are going to see a 6.91% increase. However, in all of our discussions, unless anyone directs me otherwise, that entire increase for the general fund and for road and bridge do not go towards operations. That's also going to go towards retiree benefits, specifically the OPEB or the retiree health care benefits. And so, yes, the general fund increases, yes, road and bridge increases, but it's also for retiree benefits. All of those will increase 6.91%, even though we're increasing 4.99%, because the bond levy went down. So we got to capture even more. And that still doesn't keep us up with, from our Truth and Taxation hearing, half an hour before this meeting, that still doesn't keep up with where we need to be. But again, I don't. We've had a lot of discussion about details, but the really big picture here is the meeting we had 2 weeks ago determined what level of property tax increase, and the board came up with a 4.99 aggregate levy increase, which is a 0.68% increase in your property taxes. But tonight's meeting is not that same vote. Tonight's meeting is should we levy property taxes? And so a no vote tonight means we no longer levy property taxes, and we will, our very next meeting, I guarantee you, we will be talking about service levels in this village, because they will dramatically decrease with a 35% decrease in our revenues.
Kent, can I ask another question as far as the monies that you make off the 4.99? Does the board vote on how much goes into each fund? I mean, if we already know that the police fund is way underfunded, the police pension way more than fire and the other, so...
Yeah, so when we talked about a 6.91% increase, that's over each one. Let's say you compare the police to the fire. Because the police is 35% fire funded and the fire is 54% funded, I think it was. 55, 56, somewhere in there.
60-some percent, I believe it's 61%. Isn't that Kevin?
I can't remember. I didn't have my
well, that's a huge difference.
But because of that, what happens is the actuarial report says that you need to contribute more every year. So right now, not only is a lot more money going into the police fund than the fire fund, but the same level of percent increase will make the dollar increase actually larger in the police fund than the fire fund. So percentage-wise, they're equal. Dollar-wise, the police pension fund is getting more money than the fire pension fund. And that's because it's so underfunded, it needs more in order to become whole. And that's done by an actuary. The actuary makes those decisions. Again, an actuary, for those students in the room, there's great demand for actuaries. Actuaries are the ones who say, what benefits have you promised? How much does that cost in today's dollars? Subtract out how much you have invested, and that's how much you owe. And it's a very lucrative profession.
You have to tell them what field that's in.
It's actuarial science. You're going to have to find a school that offers it.
Drake University, where I graduated from.
It's very close to education guesses.
Bringing it back to my the motion. The motion is for approval of an ordinance levying taxes for the general, corporate, and special purposes for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2016, and ending April 30th, 2017, for the village of Alsip, Cook County, Illinois.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Roll call number 3. Trustee Shapiro?
Yes.
Trustee McGrail?
No.
Trustee Dizelle?
Yes.
Trustee Ryan?
No.
Trustee Michaels?
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer?
No.
Mayor Kitching?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Any unfinished business before the board?
I wanted to bring up the holiday on Pulaski, which is this Friday, and it's going to be very cold. So I hope everybody dresses really warm, but I hope you still come out. We have all kinds of, you can go on the website and see our map, and we have all kinds of carriage rides. We have
Santa Claus.
We have Dickens characters that are going to be going around singing. We have a pianist playing at our new Taco Bell. We have all different kinds of, just go on the website. But also, I also wanted to bring up last year's event was of course, it was like 40 degrees last year, and so we had a big turnout. I'm hoping that everybody still comes out because there's plenty of places to go inside and get warm. But last year, just so I can show you how generous all of our business owners were, and last year, our total income for the event was $2,700, and the expenses were $3,134.54, which means we spent $434 for last year's event. And this year, we also got a lot of donations from the businesses, and it seems like it's going to be a really nice event. We have, please come out and enjoy the evening. 5 to 9, December 9th.
I'd like to correct the record. With roll call number 3, I should have stated that is now ordinance number 2016-12-7.
7.
7?
Yes.
We have a closed session, trustee.
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session to determine the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2 C1.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Roll call number 4 to go into executive session. Trustee Shapiro.
Yes.
Trustee McGreal.
Yes.
Trustee Dizelle.
Yes.
Trustee Ryan.
Yes.
Trustee Michaels.
Yes.
Trustee Dwyer.
Yes.
Motion carries to go into closed session.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be coming back in here if for no other reason than to adjourn, and but nothing else will be voted on this evening. And Merry Christmas to everybody if we don't see you before then.
Merry Christmas.
Trustees across the hall in 10 minutes.
Don't we have a meeting now? We have one more meeting.
And after they did that, I thought,
I take it.
Deb, those ordinances,